And we're back with another episode of Nobody Cares About Manchester City, but everybody wants to see them get relegated. We're at it again. Oh my God, somebody put a gun to my head and shoot me. This is getting ridiculous. Outrageous how the whole story should be about Everton. But nobody cares about little old City anymore, apparently. Those are the terminologies and phrases that I continuously hear. Yet here we are, Everton have been punished, but what about Man City? Fucking kill them, get them relegated, get them done. And Chelsea as well. They seem to be slightly mentioned here and there, but its majority of the news is about relegating Manchester City. And all of this information has resurfaced again, and City fans have to go through all of this again and listen to all of the accusations and potential threats of relegation and whatnot, all hanging on that one individual. The majority of this case is hanging on one individual, at least with regards to Rui Pinto. I'm sure all you expert lawyers out there are already well aware of who Rui Pinto is and what he's about. An investigating journalist that illegally hacked Manchester City's database and obtained screenshots of and released these screenshots of numerous emails. The whole CAS case with UEFA was hanging on these emails, of course, that Rui Pinto, who, by the way, is currently sat in a prison cell. Just read between the lines there, make of that what you will. But Rui Pinto is currently sat in prison right now for illegally obtaining multiple types of documentations in similar cases like this, trying to expose, and then these exposés of massive industries and football clubs and whatnot. And it's not just in the footballing industry either, but sticking with Manchester City. Of course, I'll stick those emails up just to give you an idea. These emails that were hacked of clear evidence. This is evidence that was used in the CAS case. You'll see why it was dismissed in a minute, but these are the emails that you can see on your screen right now. Just pop them on there. So this is one of the emails you can see between mentioning money between Etisalat and ADUG, for example. Then moving on to the next email from Graham Wallace that you can see there to Simon Pearce. Those two names in particular have been brought up numerous times, one being the Chief Financial Officer, mentioning different requests for money being moved, then moving on to Graham Wallace, another email between Graham Wallace and Simon Pearce, and then another one from Simon, all with just a basic email, really, that you can see the evidence. And that was the evidence. That was it. Apparently that proves City are guilty. And we saw those morons on Twitter who were all very much dependent on these emails and said, that's it. That's proof. You've proved us right. And I've been saying all along, what proof is that? That is a white background with text on it. And I mean, what world do we live in to think that can't be doctored? And do you want to know why? I'll go back if you want. I'll go back. I'm pretty sure Graham Wallace didn't say, I love cheating and fuck the rags, did he? That's some odd wording from Graham Wallace, isn't it, in an email? Oh no, maybe I did it. Yeah, just to prove a point. Just to highlight how easy these things can be doctored. And I mean, if I can do it sitting here in this little room of mine here, if I'm able to do it, what Rui Pinto is capable of doing? If he's able to hack databases, do you not think he's able to pin up a few emails together and write a few doctors? People can call me a conspiracy theorist and say I'm the wild one in this speculation, but who's the conspiracy theorist? Me or Rui Pinto? Because right now he's talking about a multi-billion pound operation which requires an immense amount of people. The amount of people that have to be involved and have to keep their mouths shut in this situation is astronomical. And all it takes is one slip up from one individual to verbally to blow a whistle or give something up to expose City. And yet there's nobody coming out from City's side of things and exposing them. And even Mancini's accusations of money being sent to him, again, just pure speculation and opinion-based things that have no genuine proof. These are much easier to disprove than to prove. All this information can be destroyed in a second in the court of law, which this is probably heading towards that. Right now it's an inquiry. It's not going to any sort of court. It's going to a very biased panel. And we're probably going to hear some bad news as City fans initially, and eventually, and almost inevitably, this will end up into the court of law of court where this will get destroyed. dismantled, completely obliterated. And I've highlighted already how easy it is to disprove these things by doctoring and fabricating the email myself. I went into the exact email he used and added a sentence of my own. Very easily done. Very easily done. I mean, Dad, if you're watching this, I'm sure you won't like to hear this, but I was doing it when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Pretending that writing sick notes like, oh, Johnny can't come into school today. He's feeling a bit unwell. Sorry about that. And these bloody teachers believe in it. No problem. No problem. The world sees a piece of information like this and they take it as gospel. Everybody's as gullible as the most recent piece of information that they've been given. Nobody questions anything. And this time they're not going to question it because it suits their agenda. Taking pot shots at the top of the league, that team that keep winning trophy after trophy. Of course we're the target. No one wants to see City win 4 Premier Leagues in a row, or win 6 out of the last 7 Premier Leagues, or win trebles. No one wants to see that other than City fans, of course. They want to see it more fair and competitive, so they're taking pot shots at City. And then you've got to move on to the funding and where the sponsorship money is coming from right now, and talking about City and why they should be relegated with, again, rules are rules, the consistent statement that are being pushed into the media, that rules are rules. But first of all, no one's questioning the rules to begin with, other than City fans. These rules are an absolute joke, an embarrassment, and clearly written by some cartel organisation to keep the top at the top and the bottom at the bottom. That is initially what financial fair play was. They're even changing the name of it. So these rules that are being constantly, rules are rules, these rules are changing year on year. Every year. And these rules are written by people who can't even make the simplest game in the world rules right. Every year, the handball rule, the offside rule, VAR, constantly rules are being changed in the game, in the sport. So if they can't even get it right on the pitch when it comes to rules, what hope have we got with the same individuals that are making the rules to make the financial rules viable and sustainable and beneficial to the whole footballing pyramid? The guys who are making these rules are a joke. And when they release this information into the public, not only do they release the information into the public, they get it horribly wrong, to the point where people are still assuming that one of the charges is that the grass was too long. No, they got it wrong. The rules that they released and the addendum that was associated with that rule was an outdated reference point. The whatever it was, maybe 1CB, point rule 1CB, whatever, I've completely pulled that out my arse. Whatever it was, that reference point to state that reference is that rule was outdated. And that was exactly what the Premier League released into the public. That's who City are going up against. You think we're going up against geniuses and it's like, oh, well, City will pay for their lawyers. They'll pay for... How much money has the Premier League got? The Premier League can afford the best lawyers. So we go toe-to-toe. The best lawyers versus the best lawyers. That's what it'll be in court. That's what it'll end up being eventually. And we'll see whose lawyers come out on top. And we'll see what evidence is available. Because I believe one set of lawyers is going in unarmed. And City are going in with a minigun of ammunition waiting to unload on the Premier League. Because this is going to get blown out of the water. And then you're still sticking with the rules of the rules. It was only in October... the 18th of October 2022, when the Premier League introduced, just over a year ago, remember that, just over a year ago, and this investigation's going back for City, going back to 2012, nearly over a decade ago, City are being investigated. But the rules that have now most recently been changed is where sponsorship comes from. And this is written in The Athletic, so just like me, rather than me getting the words misconstrued and misunderstood, reading it out to you might make it in more simplest of forms. But basically the rules were changed in October 2022, October the 18th, to suggest that no longer can Premier League clubs, or 18 of the 20 Premier League clubs voted that no associating body with like family members or someone you know from another company that's already got pre-existing relationships with that company can invest and inflate the amount of sponsorship that's being inserted into that club, and as a result receive unrealistic revenues because of the amount of money that they're receiving is purely inflated. First of all, you're getting dangerously into opinion-based topics. What's the opinion of how inflated? How much is something worth? So, for example, if Chevrolet, who once sponsored United, the American-based company that once sponsored United, or Audi, the German-based company that sponsor and heavily invested in Bayern Munich, what if they and all the money that they give to those clubs? What if Chevrolet decided to sponsor, I don't know, Brighton. Let's just say they decided to sponsor Brighton. And let's say Chevrolet gave United £50 million a year, but they give Brighton £50 million a year. Hang on a minute, United should be getting that money more, and Brighton don't give as much exposure to Chevrolet, so that doesn't make sense. And I go, okay, we'll make it 49 million then. Who are you? Who are we? Who is anybody to argue what the value of a sponsorship's worth? When it gets to unrealistic in proportions, understandably so, but the figures that are being branded around are too close to opinions. They are not categorically one way or the other. They're not stated as clear enough to be inflated value, and there's no evidence of these inflated values. Zero. So the two clubs that voted against it were Newcastle and Manchester City, who clearly already had pre-existing relationships. But this goes on. This has been going on for many, many times, and we are dangerously entering into opinion-based terminologies and coming to an agreement of what the actual inflation is purely now based on opinion stuff. So the new rules mean that any commercial agreement worth more than 1 million must be submitted to the Premier League to check whether it is an associated party transaction. The wording of the updated Premier League handbook is significant, as it warns clubs will be judged not only on legal descriptions but also the substance of the relationship with associated parties. The definition of an associated party has been broadened to be defined as any party having material influence over the club or being an entity in the same group of companies as the club. The definition is also extended to cover close family members, as well as cases where a club and entity are directly or indirectly controlled, jointly controlled, or materially influenced by the same government, public or state-funded body, or by the same party. The Premier League then reserves the right to independently assess whether a deal has been conducted at fair value. So basically, it's up to the Premier League. They can decide. They just make it up. See how we go. What do we think, boys? Do we like the idea of City receiving a decent amount of money? Or should we say that's a load of bollocks and we don't like it because City can buy more players and City have more revenue and therefore are more successful on the pitch? That's what it all boils down to. And this is what we're going up against, Blues. An incredibly poorly organised argument that's going to get dismantled. It's going to get destroyed. And right now we've got idiots who are in the public, and we got to take it. It's going to be years, Blues. It's going to be years before we hear the answer to this. And to put it into simplest of terms of why are Everton being punished so swiftly and quickly compared to why City aren't, which is something I should have said at the start of the video. I don't know why it's so unfathomable for people to understand. It's because Everton went, sorry, we did it. City said, we didn't do anything wrong. Simple as that. You admit guilt, you get found guilty. Very simple. You confess, you're guilty. They confessed. And the second of all, their accusation, what Everton are being deemed to have found guilty of, is a mistake. It's a mistake. I don't understand why what City are being accused of is cheating, manufacturing and fabricating, falsifying accountant books. That's what City are being accused of. Everton have overspent. That's what they're saying Everton have done, and they've gone 20 million or just under 20 million over the budget of what they were allowed to do, or the threshold of what they were allowed to spend. They've admitted that. They've made the mistake. Chelsea have also admitted it, and they're now being investigated. And what they've said as a response to it is they're damning for Chelsea. It's worrying for Chelsea. City have done the right thing for their own protection. And not only for their own protection, this is going to go forward and forward into realms the footballing world has never seen before. We're never going to see anything like this again, to the point why, I'll bring it up again, the white paper. Why do you think the Premier League are against the white paper, having an independent regulator coming in and seeing over these types of decisions, instead of the Premier League, who are ran by United fans and Liverpool fans who have clear agendas for certain clubs and are riddled with clubs that are of Arsenal, Liverpool and United, with very little influence from any other Premier League clubs, and we all have to bow down to the historic clubs of United and Arsenal and Liverpool. Why do you think the independent regulator makes them scared? Because they don't get to say what City can and can't spend. And they don't get to say what Newcastle can and can't spend. And Chelsea are spending more money and making up rules. They're changing the rules as they go along. They're completely making it up as they go along. And the fact that these rules exist is an absolute joke. And then to say that City need to go back and need to resurface. Don't forget, I told you, these rules were made in October the 18th of 2022, just over a year ago. And now they're trying to enforce these rules going back 10 years. The rules were different back then. Just because you made a shit rule doesn't mean that the rules that you've now changed and rectified and were made aware of, the pathetic loopholes that you left in this whole financial fair play as it was, or profitability and sustainability model that you're trying to introduce now. The fact that the rules are now changing doesn't mean you can enforce the rules to what they are now and go back retrospectively and enforce punishments, because the rules weren't there then. Now the rules have changed. You can't change it again. It's like me. I remember when I was at Sports Day, when I was a little lad, and the cup and ball race, to most people, it was the egg and spoon race, but we had cups and balls. I was in a very advanced school with cup and balls instead of egg and spoon. But still, not that advanced, because the teachers left a loophole in the rule, because it was a sponge ball, and the rules were, you get the ball, you put it into the cup, and then when the teacher says go, or fires the gun, they didn't have a gun obviously, but like whatever it was, and start the race, you've got to get to the finish line and don't drop the ball. Those were the rules, okay? So what did I do? All the other kids I was racing against, they didn't see the loophole in the rule, because this sponge ball wedges very nicely into that cup. So there's me doing the 100-metre sprint like this with a cup and a ball in my hand. My arms are doing that as I'm sprinting, legging it, full pelt to the finish line, legged it, won the race, no problem. They clearly knew I was cheating. I was cheating. Was I cheating? They didn't say I couldn't do it. That's the difference. Next year, plastic balls, can't be wedged in, can't get them in, can't change the rules now. They've changed the rules, but I still walk away with the first place, yeah? Not my fault you didn't have the awareness to create the rules accurately enough to nullify and prevent any loopholes from being exposed. Not my fault. Same as City in the most layman's of terms you could possibly imagine. A sports day race to a multi-billion-pound football club. It's insane, and it really is that simple. You know, you can't keep changing the rules and expect to enforce those rules going backwards, retrospectively. It makes no sense. Blues, get your comments in below. I bet you're getting sick of this, but brace yourself. It's going to be another couple of years of this at least. But hey, in the meantime, treble winners, let's laugh at them. On the pitch, we're the best. Deal with it. Get in the comments below. I really want to hear your thoughts. Like and subscribe. Typical City is the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now.